Hi everybody, TJ Mack and Vintage Cards and Nostalgia here. And last week I took the week off from making videos. I was in Orlando from Tuesday to Friday for a work conference, and I just didn't have time to put a video together. Now, when preparing for my weekly videos, I have a list of several topics I've jotted down over time to choose from. And what I decided to talk about, it's often based on the mood I'm in, recent acquisitions I've made to my collection, or just a topic I'm inspired by. Now, today, I'm going to show 4 cards I've acquired over the past few months and how they fit within my collection. I enjoy doing these types of videos from time to time because it's a lot of fun to add a card and just to think of all the different ways it fits within your collecting focus. Now, I do some player runs, I select key cards from certain sets that I enjoy. I put together images of different photos to create a display piece. I just have a lot of areas that draw my interest as a collector. And sometimes I'll get a card in and it might fit 3, 4, 5 different things that I'm trying to do with my collection. And it's just something I really enjoy about the hobby. So the first card I'm going to show today is a gift from a fellow YouTuber. A couple of months ago, I did a profile on Steve Garvey, and I showed my Topps cards from 1971 to 1985. The only 2 I needed to complete my graded run are the 86 and 87. And to be honest, I wasn't sure if I was going to complete it. But then Mike from Scoots Collectibles was kind enough to send me this beautiful 1986 Topps Tiffany of Steve Garvey. I think Mike has given me the push to finish the run, being I only need the 87 Topps. So now I've added it to my eBay saved search. Mike is one of the nicest people you'll come across in this community, and that's really saying a lot. He has a wonderful perspective on the hobby, as he loves collecting his local Pittsburgh teams, as well as Mike Trout and other vintage and modern cards. He's also building the 1956 Topps baseball set, which is probably my favorite set in all of the hobby. What I especially like about Mike is that he coaches his son's baseball team and spends time collecting cards with him, both of which are close to my heart as a former Little League coach who loved collecting with my kids when they were little. This 86 Garvey is now featured in my display case that documents my collecting journey. And I want to thank you, Mike. I'm going to leave a link to his channel down below. While baseball and football are the 2 sports I enjoy collecting the most, I also have a passion for 50s to mid 80s hockey cards. The 59 Parkhurst set is one of my favorite hockey sets with the clean and colorful design. I'm drawn to the 2-tone colors that give it a 50s feel, similar to the automobiles of the day. You can see it here on this Burt Olmsted card. The yellow is shaped like a hockey stick, and it contrasts nicely with the white. Now, next to Olmsted is the great netminder, Johnny Bower. I've shown these cards before, but to make it a trio, I've added another legendary Maple Leaf. Here you have the 1959 Parkhurst third-year card of Hall of Fame left winger Frank Mahovlich. Known as the Big M, he was a strong, fast skater with a powerful shot. He made a statement in his first season by beating out the legendary Bobby Hull for the Calder Cup as the league's Rookie of the Year. His brother Peter also was a very good player who had a long career. Now, Frank played in the NHL between 1957 and 1974 with the Maple Leafs and the Canadiens. He won a total of 6 Stanley Cups. Frank was so good that when he retired from the NHL, he was the 4th all-time goal-scoring leader with 533, trailing only Gordie Howe, Bobby Hull, and Maurice the Rocket Richard. I am so happy to add this card to my collection. Look at these 3 Maple Leaf Hall of Famers together. What a beautiful display. Next up is this 1976 Topps card of quarterback Jim Hart. Pictured is the Cardinals signal caller under center as he looks to his right. While Hart is not a household name, I saw a video where a St. Louis TV station voted him as St. Louis's Athlete of the Decade for the 1970s. During this time, Hart was one of the most prolific passers in the NFL. He had one of the strongest throwing arms of any quarterback to play the game. Now, people tend to associate Air Coryell, the famed offense from the late 70s and the early 80s that was created by Don Coryell with the San Diego Chargers. But the Cardinals were his first head coaching job, and he instituted the famed passing attack with the Cardinals quarterback at the center of it. During that time, Hart made 4 straight Pro Bowls from 1974 to 1977. At the end of the 77 season, Coryell was let go by the Cardinals and went to the Chargers, where he helped guide Dan Fouts to a Hall of Fame career. Hart never made the Pro Bowl again. When Hart retired in 1984, he was third all-time in passing yards behind Fran Tarkenton and Johnny Unitas, and 10th in touchdowns with 209. He was just a fantastic quarterback. Hart matches nicely with 2 other quarterbacks from my youth, Phil Simms and Joe Theismann. You have a sequence here with Hart at center, Phil dropping back maybe for a fake handoff, then it finishes with Joe Theismann running with the ball, just like when you can take photography and piece it together that way. And I also like that these images show the uniforms of the day that I grew up with, and it just takes me back to being an 8-year-old kid again. It's just the magic of our cards to transport us back to the past. The last card I want to show today is this 1963 Fleer of Maury Wills to go along with the 71 Topps that I've had in my collection for a while, and then this 1966 Major League Baseball magazine. And I've really enjoyed learning about Will's career and just the tough time he had even getting to the majors. He was drafted by the Dodgers, or signed by them actually, in 1951 at 18 years old, and then he just toiled in the minors until 1959. And I read some things online where it said that he was being held back mainly by Pee Wee Reese playing ahead of him. But I don't really think that's the case. Of course, Reese was the entrenched starter with the Dodgers during that time, but Wills was really struggling in the minors as a hitter. In this article that I read in the magazine, he was trying to learn how to switch hit as early as 1952, but then was discouraged by one of his coaches to do it. And again, he was just really struggling in the minors throughout the 1950s. He actually had a tryout with the Tigers in 1959, and it's led to the reason why he doesn't have any Topps cards all the way till 1967. What had happened then is that Topps was going around and signing players to contracts, and the Topps representative at the time got some advice from the Tigers, basically telling them this guy doesn't really have a chance to make the majors. There's really no need to sign him. And that irritated Maury Wills. And for many years, once he got into the majors, he did not sign any contracts with Topps. And again, it wasn't until 1967 that he was featured solely on a Topps card. He does have a card in the 60 Topps set on a World Series Game 5 card, but it's not a card that's a base card of him specifically. He's just on a card showing a play from that series. Now, Wills does have several regional issues, some of the serial issues as well, prior to this 1963 Fleer card. But this is the card that's considered his first nationally distributed card. Now, the fronts of the 63 Fleer cards feature a large player photo, as you can see here. And below that's a yellow colored diamond. And typically there's going to be an image of a player drawn inside of it. The exception is this Maury Wills card, which proudly displays in that diamond in large black bold letters, National League Most Valuable Player, 62. And I almost think it's to stick it in Topps' face for not signing him, because it's so prominently displayed on the card that he won that award. And what a 62 season he had. I mean, he broke the all-time stolen base record with a 104, which Ty Cobb previously, I believe it was 95, might be wrong on that. But Wills broke that record and really brought the running game back to notoriety in baseball again. And I have this Roger Maris paired next to him because, like Wills, Maris is not in the Hall of Fame. But I don't know how you can tell the story of the 1960s in baseball in your collection and not have Maris and Wills in it. Those were two of the very prominent stars of the day. And as I've mentioned, I collect magazines, and I have many magazines. I showed you two in this video with Wills on the cover. I have others. He was a very popular player of the time. He did a lot to change the game, as I said. And he's somebody that may never get into the Hall of Fame. I think one of the reasons why is he started his career at 26. So he started it much later than a lot of other players did that are in the Hall of Fame. And it wasn't, like I said, because he was held back so much. He had a lot to learn about hitting. He became a switch hitter actually in 1959. As I said, he tried it in 52, but he became one in 1959. And that did, I think, help him get into the big leagues. And it did certainly make him a better hitter over the long run. But even when he made the majors, in the article I was reading, he was struggling with his hitting. And one of the Dodgers coaches, Pete Reiser, who was a former player, very good player, worked with Wills to become a better hitter over time. And he gave a lot of credit for Reiser for helping him. So it's not as easy to say, hey, if he got in at 19 or 20 or 21, he would have put up those numbers. I think it's that time and that learning that he did over those years that made him a better player ultimately. And I just have a lot of respect for him. He talked about how, most of the players that are in the majors have very similar skill levels. They may be different sizes and things like that, but there are certain intangibles like never quitting and just the work ethic that you put in place that makes some become stars and others not. And I just was real enlightened with that article that I read. So I just wanted to share these cards today and just how they fit into my collection. I want to wish everybody a great weekend, and we'll talk again soon.